G'day, fools. I'm Scott Phillips, the Motley Fool's Chief Investment Officer here in Australia, and welcome to another Stock of the Week. That's right, it might be the week before Christmas, but we are still here and still bringing you our Stock of the Week because we love it, you love it. We want to make sure we deliver you some great value. And speaking of which, speaking of value, speaking of great value, I have Motley Fool analyst extraordinaire, Kate Lee. How are you, Kate?
Very well. How are you, Scott?
I'm very well, thank you for asking. Now, we're going to go through our Stock of the Week, so I'm going to give my usual preamble. The first is, these are buy recommendations right now, not later necessarily. We hope they're long-term buy recommendations, that's the idea, but we reserve the right to change our minds. Secondly, we're long-term investors. None of the opinions, none of the views, none of the recommendations that we share on this platform, either on the podcast, if you're listening to us on podcast, or on YouTube if you're watching us there, none of these are immediate, short-term, this week, this month, not even this year. We're long-term investors looking at least 3 years, preferably 5 or more. And lastly, we're going to give you general financial advice, not personal advice. Please make sure you understand how these things meet your particular needs, criteria, objectives, risk tolerances, and all that fun stuff. Please keep those things in mind. They are important. Okay, let's move on to this week's company, because from the mundane to the pretty exciting, this has got to be one of those businesses that, frankly, I don't know. If you think sci-fi, I'm thinking Jetsons. I'm thinking all sorts of good stuff. I'm thinking lots of exciting ways to be investing our money, and technology that is brand new and taking over the world. We're going to talk about a company called DroneShield. I'm going to guess that those two things are kind of important: drones and shields. I'm going to assume that's part of the investment thesis, or at least part of what the company does. But you're the expert, not me. Tell me what DroneShield does, if you would.
Yeah, so as the name suggests, right, so they make counter-drone equipment. So they do both hardware and software, but mostly for now, they sell hardware equipment, mostly to militaries, law enforcement bodies globally. They're actually a pioneer in this niche market, and then one of a few companies that offer a full range of products and work on a global scale. So they have a global presence. They are coming out of, from Australia. So they are made in Australia, and then they have a global presence, which we like. As I said, its customers are mostly militaries, and, you could think about like jail system, airport even. They sell to 120 different countries, strictly to Australia and allies, so that they don't deal with, gray or blacklist countries. Their main customers are in Australia, in the US, and the Middle East. Each of these geographies will account for about 20 to 30% of its sales for now. So I think that's what they do.
So when we're about DroneShield, we're talking about the counter drone technology, as you said. So we know that the old unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, are a big part of military, but potentially the non-military uses, right? Think about things like terrorism, unfortunately, or even just the local hacker who decides he wants to try and fly a drone through an airport or across, as you say, a military installation or something else. These bodies want to have the ability to effectively deter or stop, one way or the other, a drone from entering their airspace or from getting information or from potentially attacking a target. And that's exactly what DroneShield does, right? It's that counter drone technology, try and identify, assess, and again, in theory, one way or the other, stop that drone doing what it wants to otherwise do. Is that roughly right?
Yeah. I was going to I was saving that for my investment case, so we can just move on to that.
Oh, sorry, okay. Let's get to that then. Let's go through the investment thesis.
Yeah, that's the exact reason why I like about this company. So, as you pointed out, the use cases of these counter-drone technologies can be wide. So you might have noticed that more people are playing with drones these days, or you may have heard that some e-commerce companies are utilizing or considering to use drones for delivery in the future. Unfortunately, as you pointed out, drones are not just used for good purpose, but also to carry out military attacks or to deliver what is not supposed to be delivered in places like jail. So as the popularity of drones increases, so does the risk or security concerns from the use of drones. And so does the demand for the equipment to protect from these drone threats is also rising. So for now, I mentioned like DroneShield's main market is militaries and law enforcement bodies, but you can see this can be easily expandable to cover airports, commercial operations, VIP protections, you just name it. There are so many different use cases. And also, even within the military space, the same technology can be used to cover electronic warfare solutions or elsewhere. So you could see there are vast amount of use cases that can be expanded on the basis of this same technology. Also, if you think about their own product mix as well, right? So I mentioned that they're currently focused on the hardware and equipment sales, but if you think about this, the amount of the information about these drones is very important, and it's getting more and more important. And then, that need for the platform, based on the artificial intelligence, AI, to collect and utilize all this different information coming from different sources is going to be very important. So DroneShield is also getting into the soft side of the things. For now, it's small, but they have launched it. And also one of its recent contracts with a Five Eyes country was this platform, using the AI to collect, the necessary information about drones. So I see the expandability is the first reason. So you have speaking of huge addressable market opportunities out there. And then secondly, I think the company is in the phase where it starts to benefit from its multi-year effort to build customer relationships. So if you look back, the business was first established in 2014, and it did its IPO in 2016. And then since around 2017, the company has been actively engaged with the Australian and the US governments to build that relationship and then, build that track record. So the revenue and orders we see today are a result of this 4 to 5 years of relationship building with key customers. What I noted from its recent updates is that its portion of repeat orders is increasing, and also the size of each order is getting larger. So for example, in the US, it was back in 2018 that the US Defense Logistics Agency certified this company, DroneShield. Then over the next few years, they made, some small projects here and there amounting to say, less than a few $100,000 orders each. And then over time, these contracts grow from new and existing customers. And if you look at the numbers in the first half of FY21, they follow the calendar year. So just the last half year, about 40% of each sales came from the US. And then that compares to just 10% in the previous year. So US is obviously a big market, and it's one of, I point out that they have a very diversified customer base, but I'm very excited that they are making this progress in the US, which is the big market. And also one thing to note in the US is that there are so many different government bodies, right? So there are federal governments, there are state governments, Air Force, jail system, airports, so on and so forth. So there's still lots of opportunities, even within that US market, to unlock, in my view. Back in homeland in Australia, it's the same story. So following a small contract worth about 0.6 million with the Australian Department of Defense, it landed a $3.8 million deal over 2 years. Just a few months ago, that was in the electronic warfare space. And then that contract has a potential to land even bigger, a third contract worth about $5 to $10 million in the future. So you see the pattern here. And while the business may look lumpy if you look at from quarter to quarter, on the annual basis, its growth has been clear. And I think the trend will likely to continue. And then thirdly, the last point, you might think that, when we say like DroneShield or anything with drone or like this new technology, you might think that, it's good to hear, but it could be just a pie in the sky. But one thing different for DroneShield, in my view, is that the company is actually delivering on the numbers. So they have delivered in the first half revenue of 6.6 million, and management is guiding for 10.3 million for the full year, and that's up about 90% from last year. And then EBITDA loss has been narrowing over time. And then the company expects it will be nearly break even at about negative 0.2 million for the full year this year. And then for the comparison last year, their loss was 6 million. So you see a trend of the revenue growth, order increase, cash flow getting better. For the cash flow, last year they did 5.4 million. This year they're expecting 14 to 15 million in terms of receipts, cash receipts from the customers. So obviously the company is using lots of its cash inflow to build sufficient inventory for growth. I think it's the right thing to do at this moment with these global supply issues. Longer term, the company has a big dream for the 5 years, and saying that they're going to reach the revenue of $100 million to $300 million compared to just 10 million they are expecting for the current year. So they have big dreams. Of course, we're going to take these long-term goals with a pinch of salt, obviously. But, you can see with the first point I mentioned that, that opportunity ahead of this company and then its position in the global scene. I think I'm very excited about the growth potential of this company.
Nice, Kate. I really like that. It's such a fascinating area. And as you say, the chance that there are going to be more and more and more drones used for a whole lot of different purposes. I think they're delivering pizzas in New Zealand with them. Amazon are trialing them as well. And that's just the commercial stuff, which is even not in DroneShield's area necessarily, but it goes to show how quickly this technology is evolving and how important something like DroneShield could be, particularly, as you say, a niche right now. But, the reality is going to be that the military want to use unmanned vehicles where they can because it's less life. Obviously, they're more usable, they're more transportable. You can place them in different areas. So it's a really big and growing area that I think is a really attractive one. And if you're the first mover in this space, as you say, with those big dreams, we know that they may not be, it may not come to pass, of course, as you rightly said. We do have to take them with a grain of salt, but it's an important reminder that small businesses that have a good business, good relationships, and good addressable market growth really could do particularly well. Mate, before we get into the risks of an investment, and we always should, first, quick ad. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for doing that. Please do check out our other free stuff, free media from the Motley Fool. Go to the podcast machine you use most, Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, or wherever you use, and check out Motley Fool Money, and also check out The Good Oil with Scott Phillips. There are 2 podcasts you can get for free. Lots and lots of great content, interviews with entrepreneurs, experts, executives, plus a whole lot of market commentary and our mailbag questions, which are the most popular. If you've got a question about investing, you want to know something, that's what that podcast is there for. And of course, if you're listening on the podcast, jump on YouTube. Just simply go to YouTube and search the Motley Fool Australia, or go to youtube.com/c/foolau, and you'll find us there. Lots of good stuff. We're all over the socials as well. Go and check us out there. Just look for me or look for the Motley Fool. You can find us everywhere. You get good podcasts, good YouTube videos, or good social media accounts. Although we're not on TikTok yet, Kate. I haven't crossed that line yet. Maybe 2022 is the year for that. That's a whole different discussion. Mate, let's cover the risks of an investment in DroneShield. We always try, when we make a recommendation, to provide the bull case, provide the reason we like the company, explain well why we think it's worth investing in. But we also make sure that we ourselves, and then we share with our members, we understand the risks of an investment in any company, including DroneShield. So maybe you can share with us the risks of an investment in DroneShield right now.
Yeah, so I can think of 3 main risks for this company. First is that the business is contract-based business. So there is the lumpiness. So that's the nature of the business. The company is introducing this software subscription model for its platform, but it's very early days. So for the time being, I think it will remain to be lumpy. And second thing, maybe related to the first point, is that it's big in the military business, meaning the decision-making process could be time-taking, and not all the details are, publicly available for us retail investors to follow. Yeah. So that may actually present some risk, and we don't know what's going on there until they announce the contracts, and even some contracts they might not be able to provide all the details. So that's the risk. And then last point is that it's an equipment maker in the main. So the business can be impacted by supply chain issues, chip shortages, freight, all these issues that's going on globally. And with the pandemic depending on the situation of the pandemic, that disruption could last longer. So that may be a short-term pain.
I like that. It's really important to remember that. I guess, as you say, the arms race goes both ways, right? Of course, you want to get growth, but they can't disclose everything. Andrew Leggett was on this series not long ago with electro-optic systems, for those who want to find some other defense stocks to look at. And the same kind of idea. You just simply don't know what they're doing. They can't tell you. We joke, I can tell you what I have to kill you. In this case, that might actually be true for some of these companies. I'm not entirely sure. But suffice it to say, they're just simply not allowed to release some of that information, which means it's just riskier, as you say, Kate, just because we don't have the information. It doesn't make it a riskier business itself. But it just means we're kind of investing with our eyes closed a little bit, right? We can't quite see everything that's going on. We don't have the same degree of detail and transparency we might get from another business in a similar industry, but outside the military kind of zone. Pretty fair to say?
Yeah, but on the defensive side, I mean, if I want to say better things about these companies, that as they grow bigger and then as they become able to diversify their industries, then these risks could be mitigated over time.
I like that. Mate, let's get to our patented 30-second elevator pitch as we go from the first floor to the 31st floor. Give our viewers and listeners the down low. You've given a great bull case. You've identified the risks. But in 30 seconds or 60 seconds or so, why should we invest, or consider investing at least, in a company like DroneShield?
So I want to point out the share price of DroneShield hasn't moved much at all, at around 18 cents over the last 12 months. But as I have demonstrated, the company, from my perspective, is definitely standing at that inflection point. Their businesses have been growing very well over the last 12 months. So I definitely see there's a discrepancy between the share price performance and the business performance right now. So next time when you see a drone flying in the sky or your neighbors playing with the drones, just remember the drone related security risks are also increasing at the same time. And also remember there's an Australian bond company that is benefiting from this whole trend on a global scale. So that is DroneShield.
Beautiful. I love that, Kate. I love the idea of looking at the neighbour's drone and thinking, I wish I could shoot that down. And thinking, maybe there's a company who can maybe help me. Maybe I'll help you with that. But at least you can have some sympathy with the, as you say, with the law enforcement agencies and military organisations around the world, because they're having the same issue, just on a much more important scale. Kate, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on DroneShield, a really exciting little company with a potentially really big blue sky future. Plenty of risks to go with it, but that's the nature of investing. Kate and the team think that this is one company that has a much better risk reward than the current share price might indicate. Phillips, thank you for sharing time with us. Kate, thank you for sharing your expertise, of course, with our listeners and viewers. To our listeners and viewers, thank you for spending time with us. This is our last stock of the week before Christmas. So, on behalf of Kate, myself, and the whole Motley Fool team, Merry Christmas. We'll see you next time, and Fool on.